the one that had the greatest benefit in vertical jump gains, as you can see significantly higher than everywhere else, was the quarter squat. And also the biggest decreases in their 40-yard dash time also came from the quarter squat. So what would cause this? Mostly it's the specificity of the joint angle that you're training at. Obviously, if you're going to jump, you don't have to go all the way down to a full squat in order to do that. Or if you're going to run, you don't have to just run all the way down from a fully flexed hip. Hinge from the hips, bend at the knees. That is how you properly execute a quarter squat. Like all the way down. So proper depth, and then up just a little way, and then back down again, then up just a little bit, and then back down again. How you feeling, Jesse? These provide a unique stimulus that you probably haven't felt before. These provide a unique stimulus that you probably haven't felt before. And the benefit here is not just getting you to reinforce proper depth, but training you in your weaker range. So you're not only getting to experience that full depth and then learning how to sort of savor in it, but you're also getting the additional benefits of experiencing the stretch reflex, the stretch portion of the range of motion of the squat. And also learning how to initiate from the bottom of the squat. Learning that movement of the chest with the hips together is going to provide you with the best opportunity to get out of the hole explosively. And then finally, you also get a chance to feel the proper tracking of the knees, especially in this bottomed out position of the squat.
If you want to grow the most possible muscle in a particular muscle group, let's say the biceps, there are various parts of the biceps that are innervated by various parts of your nervous system, and they're called motor units. The actual nerve and the muscle fibers it innervates. Not all motor units are on from this part of the movement to this one. Some of them are on, some are not. Not all of them are on in this part, and not all of them are on the tail end of the entire range of motion. But if you use the biceps through its full range of motion, and that applies to all muscles, all of the motor units are properly activated, they're properly stressed, and a maximum growth stimulus results. So if you use full range of motion training, all of your motor units in the muscle get hit, all of them potentially grow, and you're not kind of screwing yourself over by not targeting parts of the muscle. You get full muscular development if you do a full range of motion. And if you don't, you might be missing out. If you want growth, the biggest factor for growth is the volume of training. And the volume of training is another way of saying that is the total mechanical work, the force times distance. So if you want more volume of training, an easy way to go about it without having to jack up the number of reps you're doing total, which takes a stress on the body, and by using even less weight than maybe you normally do in a partial, you can go through a full range of motion, that generates a huge distance for the bar to travel every time. That sums up your volume to get you up to enough volume, your maximal recoverable volume perhaps, a bunch of volume to actually get you to grow. So instead of having to do like squat 315 for a bunch of half reps and do a bunch of sets of 15 and get a certain total volume, you might be able to do just 275, but sets of 10 all the way up and down. Just a couple sets later, you've summed up enough volume that you'd have to be there in the gym forever doing partials.
There you have it, guys. No matter which version of the quarter squat you decide to try, make sure you're using them as a complement to your full range of motion squats and not a replacement for them. The quarter squat is actually just an abbreviated range of motion of the more traditional full squat. In other words, we're concentrating on the top range of motion where you're strongest in that range of motion, not unlike many other exercises that we happen to do that on, like let's say a pin press in relationship to a bench press, focusing again on that top range of motion. Or maybe a mat elevated deadlift or even a trap bar deadlift versus a conventional deadlift. Once again, strengthening that top range of motion.
Variations are stressful enough to force an adaptation to occur, but they aren't so stressful that you cannot recover from it. Here's an example of what I mean. Let's say you squat, normal competition squat, 405 pounds for 5 reps at an effort of 8 out of a 1 through 10 scale. Later on that week, you might perform the 2-count pause squat with 365 pounds for 5 reps at an effort of 8 out of a 1 through 10 scale. The same effort as your normal squat earlier in the week, but with less weight. This programming approach is more productive and sustainable than squatting 405 pounds for 5 reps again later that week, or 415 pounds again later that week. The effort exerted during the pause squat can match the same effort as our competition squat, but with less weight. And the pause squat looks very similar to a normal squat, so specificity is high. It looks like the movement we want to improve, the squat. And the weight on the bar is not too much less than the weight we use for a competition squat, so the overall systemic stress is still adequate.
So I define training sensitivity is the result you get from a given amount of training stress in a particular movement. And so the sensitivity to training matters as well. You get desensitized to training as you continue seeing the same movements over and over again. This is part of the repeated bout effect. Repeated bout effect states that you get better at both recovering from and performing the things that you are repeatedly exposed to. So the first time you run a 5K, it's terrible, right? The second time it's less terrible, and the 100th time you run it, it's not terrible at all. It's not even a stress. In fact, it will no longer improve your ability to run a 5K.
Some lifters will experience a very fast, very easy pull until the bar passes the knees, followed by an agonizingly slow approach to lockout that might last several seconds by itself. They'll therefore conclude that they have a weak lockout or weak glutes, and perform gluteal isolation exercises or high block pulls to improve these factors.
or maybe a mat elevated deadlift, or even a trap bar deadlift versus a conventional deadlift. Once again, strengthening that top range of motion.
However, this situation is almost always due to the lifter allowing the back to round as the weight comes off the floor. This results in a position where the knees and hips are near lockout, but the rounded spine must uncoil itself to fully lock out. The best solution for these lifters is to find the weight where a flat back can be maintained and train the deadlift up from there with perfect technique.
Strengthening that top range of motion.
A big, thick, strong upper back will make that lockout portion of your deadlift smooth as butter. When the fact is, really, most people don't have trouble with their lockout, it's they lack the leg drive, so their form breaks down as they get to their lockout, and they're in such a bad biomechanical position that they can't lock it out.